Welcome to the Entrepreneur Mindset Mastery Podcast, where we help you pull the weeds from the garden of your mind so that you can flourish in your life and business. With your hosts, entrepreneur coach Simon Page and business coach Robert Peterson.
So welcome to the Entrepreneur Mindset Mastery Podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 1. We are so excited to be back with you. And today we are talking about the 12 universal laws. And why is this important? These laws govern how we think and act with the universe. And an understanding of these laws helps us to be more intentional in how our actions and thoughts correspond with the universe. Now, these laws are thought to be intrinsic, unchanging, and have always been intuitively known. But you can find them captured in some early ancient Egypt and I was trying to remember the name of the guy. It's not Kuiper. It's another K. Dang it. Where some of these laws had originated.
Wasn't Johann Kepler?
There we go. He wrote astronomy stuff.
Yes. Yes.
But anyway, the idea is that these have been intrinsically known and weren't necessarily discovered or written all at once or written by one individual person.
Yeah, and I would even go so far as to say it wasn't until we had sort of a modern, and by modern, I mean within the last, say, 200 years of man's evolution, until we had a more modern idea of personal growth as being something that was extrinsic that we could choose for ourselves, that these actually began to be named.
Absolutely.
Right? They were simply just hunches or topics for philosophical thought around the Roman baths. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It was like an awareness.
Yes. Yes. Well put.
So obviously, since there's 12 of them and we have an hour, this is going to be a pretty quick introduction to each of these laws. And then for the remainder of our season, we'll dig deeper into a few of our favorites.
I'm gonna roll the dice here and say we'll probably do them all.
Ha! Well, eventually, I think yes, absolutely. Whether they'll all fit into our season 2 of 10 episodes, or we'll expand into season 3.
Yes.
Only the universe knows.
Careful, Robert. You just gave away our season strategy. Yeah, so last year we just kind of made, if you were following along, we made just a long string of podcasts. And this year we're going to be going into doing multiple seasons. Each one will be 10 episodes and will be centered around a given structure or given topic, right? So you can look forward to a little bit more focused, in-depth conversation and analyses on some of the topics that we're covering. And so let's dive into the universal laws.
Absolutely. So the first one we're going to talk about is the law of attraction. And it's kind of because it's pretty much the most popular of the bunch. And so the law of attraction is used for manifestation or attracting those things to you that will help you accomplish your dream, your goals, your ideas.
How does it work, Robert?
Well, so the idea is that basically you attract what you focus on, or you bring into your awareness what you focus on. And that requires
the phrase, where awareness goes, or energy flows where awareness goes.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so thinking back to Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich, he talked about it being a burning desire, right? So you have to have a burning desire for what it is that you really want. So it can't just be want, right? I want to be rich or I want to have success. It has to be a burning desire for a very specific thing. And then you have to have the expectation that you'll receive this, right? The belief. You have to not only have the desire, but you have to have the belief. And those two are kind of synonymous, right? They go together and are just necessary to bring about what you want. And the third one is kind of the hardest piece of that.
Keeping your attention on it, is that the one?
Absolutely. Well, that goes back to your focus, right? Where your focus goes, your energy flows.
Right. If you say I want to be rich, and then you spend 60% of your waking time playing on the Xbox, unless your vision involves being a professional esports gamer, you're probably not moving towards that goal right?
Well,
Because you're keeping it top of mind.
even more is our typical is we're thinking about the things that we don't have rather than the thing that we desire.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so the focus is actually on, oh, look at the checking account balance. Oh, look at the lack here. Oh,
Right.
look at the lack of clients. And we focus on the lack rather than on the belief that the new thing is around the corner, right? That money will be in our checking account and that we'll have those extra clients and we'll have these extra things. And so it's challenging to switch to that present tense of the future want.
It is. It actually really is. I've run into a number of challenges in that myself. I'm really looking forward to diving into this one in depth, because I can create a vision, right? I mean, that's fairly well, easy for me now. I've been doing it for a couple of years. I can create a vision. I can read that vision every day, but keeping it top of mind while I'm going about other things, revisiting it through the day, things like that. I struggle with that, and I'm not sure exactly how to fit that into my conscious processes.
One of the reminders that I was given was put that desire, that burning desire, on your phone as your screensaver or as your lock screen, so that every time you pick up your phone, you see that, or you see a piece of it on your phone, and it brings to mind the entire goal. And so that's one way to add it throughout your day. Of course, there's the sticky notes on the bathroom mirror, and of course, putting it on your nightstand and reading it, when you wake up and before you go to bed, so that your brain is processing it throughout the day and throughout your night of sleep.
And on the refrigerator.
So you get it every time you grab something out of the fridge.
Every time you go and refill a drink or want a snack or prepare a meal.
Yeah, when we used to commute, you could put it on an index card and stick it on your dashboard right next to the speedometer. But since we hardly commute anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a note to myself to actually put that.
Make a note to make a note.
Make a note to put it on my phone.
I like it,
because that's a really good idea.
All right, so now let's jump to the second law, the law of vibration.
Yes, the law of vibration, which says that everything in the universe is in motion. Even a giant slab of granite is vibrating at some level. And if you look at from a scientific standpoint, even if you look at the physical properties of matter, everything is vibrating, right?
Absolutely. The table in front of you, the table holding the computer, the chair you're sitting in is all really pieces of matter that are vibrating and joined together by the speed or slowness of their vibration.
That's it. And then the challenging part is understanding that not only does the table and the tea and the monitor and the cup of coffee in front of you vibrate, but so do your thoughts. So does your personal energy, right? Have you ever been so excited that you're jumping up and down and you're just, I'm just vibrating?
Well, even more than that, think about when you walk into a room, right? You walk into a cafe or a restaurant, and you say to yourself, you actually say to yourself, I like the vibe here, or I don't like the vibe. And that's actually, you're identifying with the vibration of the presence of the people in the room. And so all of us are putting out a vibration, and when there's a positive vibration or a negative vibration, or it's a vibration that you connect with, you can absolutely feel that. And you know it inside of you. In fact, you even identify it as, man, I feel the vibe. I like this vibe. Right. And so you're saying right away, oh, I'm connecting with this. Right.
Yep.
And even if you don't understand the law behind it, you experience it. And all of us, I think, at one time or another have at least experienced that a little bit. Right. If you're aware of it, you can start to experience it more and more. And of course, that awareness really helps you. And I think recognizing the higher vibrations, right? The more positive you are, the more outgoing, you'll have a positive vibration that people will like to be around, versus carrying negativity and victim mentality or scarcity mindset lowers your vibration, and it's not as enjoyable to be around those kinds of people.
I like to think of it as the higher the vibration, the more the attraction.
Oh, absolutely. The more magnetic you are.
Yes. Yeah. If you ever look at people who are extremely successful and highly charismatic, just being around them or watching them stand up and do their thing, you can feel the positive energy coming off of them. You know,
so good.
Yeah.
Well, even when you're speaking to a room, right, you can feel the energy of the room. The room's putting off a vibration, and as a speaker, you can use that energy. You can feel that energy, and it encourages you, and it lifts you up. And obviously, some of these laws are connected, but I love the idea that thoughts are energy, and that your thoughts have a vibration. And even if those thoughts are just inside your head, they're still vibrating, and they're still, like Napoleon Hill said, your brain is a sending and receiving unit. And now science is proving more and more that you're sending out different colors, right? They can measure your aura in machines now, and they can see different colors when your brain is activating different parts. And it's just so impressive that, 150 years after Napoleon Hill and Wallace D. Wattles and James Allen, science is catching up with their language. Science is catching up with the things they were teaching and showing that these things are really true, right? And they can measure the brain waves and stuff out to a certain distance, but I firmly believe that we're interconnected, and they go much further than science has caught up with yet.
Oh yeah, and I think that if you ever walked into a room where people were having an argument, but when you walk in, everyone is silent? Can you feel it?
Oh, absolutely.
That's because of the dissonance of those two low frequency fields. I totally feel. Yeah. Let's not get too far behind though. Let's talk about the law of compensation.
Well, and some people would call this karma, right? But it's really you reap what you sow, and so what you put out into the world will come back to you. For most people, it's the labor that you put in, you receive the compensation for.
Okay, when's the next one? No.
Some of them
pretty straightforward,
Yeah, some of them are going to be that easy, right?
It also, there's also the you reap what you sow, but works both ways, right? you mentioned karma, and I think that's one of the challenges that we face. Depending on how you were raised, how you were brought up in the world, some people go out as adults very bitter and cynical about the world. And when you go through the world bitter and cynical, and you're putting that energy into the world, the law of compensation says that you're going to get bitter and cynical back.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you combine that with the law of vibration. What you're putting out is what you're going to receive. And I think it even goes to the law of attraction, right? If you're not putting something into the flow, then you're not going to get anything back. Like, the idea that you could sit on your couch and manifest those results playing the Xbox. But the truth is you've got to put something out into the world. You've got to add value to the world in some way for you to be compensated, in return. And so expecting compensation without adding value or giving value to the world is like, I'm going to get the gold out of the river without putting my pan in the water. And it just doesn't work that way, obviously.
Yeah. We'll get to it in a minute, but that ties directly into the law of cause and effect.
Absolutely.
We haven't gone that far yet, so that's foreshadowing.
That's right. We're planting seeds you don't know about yet.
Weeding the garden, planting deliberately. The other thing about the law of compensation, when you put negative energy into the universe, you get negative energy back. I just said that. But alternately or additionally, you manifest others You attract others through the law of attraction who have that same vibrational level. When I was a software engineer, I found myself constantly surrounded by bitter, cynical people, and I never really understood why until I started learning the laws of the universe. And the one thing that just hit me hard when I started implementing these things and deciding that that's not who I want to be in the world, and I started being positive and optimistic, and I had a friend of mine, dear friend, we've been friends since 2000 and single digit, I don't know, 3, 4, right? We were friends for a good decade before I started down the entrepreneur / personal growth path. And within the last couple of years, he told me that I am, quote, disgustingly saccharine. And I said, wow, thank you. He meant it, negatively, but I took it as a positive, because that's who I have striven to become. And that's it really comes down to, you're going to make a choice of the people that you put in your life. You're also going to be making a choice of the vibration level that you accept in your life.
Absolutely. And what you put out there is what you're going to receive back. And the same thing when those relationships, when you start to change, there's going to be people around you that aren't going to like it, and they're going to leave you, and you're going to be okay with it because they're no longer going where you're going, and you want to go there. So you're making a commitment. So,
and that's okay.
Absolutely. In fact, you're better off, right? Because some of those friends are boat anchors holding you back from your dream.
It's hard leaving 15, 20-year friendships behind, though.
Absolutely. But that kind of leaves us to the next law, right? It's called the Law of Divine Oneness. But the truth is that we're all interconnected.
Yes.
And we can choose which connections we want to focus on, which connections are benefiting us and which connections are hurting us. And I think it's important to recognize that we have that choice in there, right? People don't just come into our lives randomly and come and go randomly. We can be intentional about which relationships that we're cultivating, which relationships we're feeding, and then which relationships we're willing to let die and fall away.
Yeah, and have you ever? It actually reminds me. Have you ever heard of the parable of the native warrior who goes to see his shaman?
Oh, but please share it.
And says, I had a dream that was disturbing, and the shaman says, "Well, tell me of your dream." And the guy says, "There was a great black wolf in my dream, and it was just malevolence incarnate. And there was a great white wolf, and it was it was light and wonder and amazingly positive, and they were fighting, and it was a very disturbing dream." And the shaman says, "Well, both of these wolves live within you, right?" And the shaman says, or the warrior says, "Well, which one will win?" And the shaman says, "The one that you feed."
So good, right?
And really, I mean, that really comes down to the application of these laws, all of them, but especially the law of divine oneness, right? We are interconnected. Everyone that we interact with, we are putting energy in the way that we show up. We're putting energy in the way that we interact with the universe, whether that's the person sitting next to you or the energy that you're putting off sitting on hold waiting for a customer service rep to pick up at your bank, whatever, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've always loved that parable, because it shows that we are absolutely unequivocally responsible for the energy that we create in the world.
Well, and that leads to the next law, right? The law of correspondence, which
Yes.
is really that our inner life is going to correspond to our outer life. And so every action we make will be reflected to our inner world. So it's kind of like the next one, which is cause and effect. These two are really, really close. But I think the idea of correspondence is that the things that you think about will become actions in your outer world. And so that there has to be congruence, right, between your inner world and your outer world. And we've had a whole episode about what happens when you're incongruent between your thought life and your action life, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this one is the absolute embodiment of where attention goes, energy flows. Right? I mean, your inner landscape, the way that you process things, the way that you envision things, the way that you create your thought life, you create that energetically, right?
Absolutely.
So when you apply that into the world, it's going to flow right along that.
I just had an acquaintance, I'll say an acquaintance asked me, why do all these bad things happen to me? And I wanted to share, but it wasn't appropriate, that you live in the drama triangle. And so the drama triangle is basically the idea of the victim, the villain, and the hero.
Mm-hmm.
And the victim, villain, and hero live in this drama triangle. You know, the victim is woe is me. Why all these bad things happen to me? The villain, of course, is the one, I'm in control. I can cause all these bad things to happen to you. I make you miserable. And of course, the hero is the one trying to fix it, saying, well, I'm here to rescue you. You don't know any better. I'm the one that can take care of you and help you. And, always needs somebody to rescue. But the truth is the three of them are on this drama triangle, and they're not aware that they have other options. They're not aware that there's a level where they don't have to have all this drama. They don't have to be in this anxiety, worry cycle. They can have the perception and be at peace, but they have to raise themselves up out of this victimhood, this inner thought life that, they got to say, I'm 100% responsible for everything that happens in my life, and elevate themselves above it.
I want to mention real quick, if you haven't tuned in to the podcast for very long, or if you haven't seen it, I encourage you, if this topic resonates with you, definitely go back and watch the episode on the 7 levels of character. It will be eye-opening.
And really, it's getting to that level of presence, that level of I'm aware of my sensory experience, right? I'm aware of my emotional experience, and I can express myself in unarguable ways, right? So my statements are no longer inciting the other person. My statements are, I feel this. I'm experiencing this. Mm-hmm. I'm picturing this. My thought life is, I'm having this thought about this. And you create a different kind of conversation when you're no longer a victim. When you're present, you lift yourself up out of that drama triangle, and you're aware of your thoughts and feelings, and you're able to express your thoughts and feelings in a healthy way. It's so powerful, because so many people are stuck in that drama triangle, and it's even more challenging because the body has this cool thing called fight, flight, or freeze, mm-hmm. which dumps adrenaline. It dumps all these chemicals into the body. But it's designed to be used emergency use only. It's like that glass, break this glass in case of emergency.
Right.
But there's people living there constantly. And so the body doesn't get to sort out those chemicals in between. It's just constantly.
That's how we end up with PTSD.
Oh, absolutely. Or ADHD, other HD, depression, anxiety, all of those things, I think, in a lot of ways are related to constantly being in this state of misery. Yeah,
there is supposed to be a baseline in the body of certain chemicals like adrenaline and epinephrine and the neurotransmitters responsible for that fight, flight, or freeze response. There is supposed to be a baseline. Let's imagine that on a scale of 1 to 100, that baseline is 5. Well, when you grow up in a situation where your baseline is always at a 25, that becomes your set level. You never go back down to what most people consider to be normal. The solution to that is therapy.
Absolutely.
Getting in and finding out what caused it, finding out what that trauma is, and then through whatever practice, and I don't want to recommend anything, but through whatever practice, releasing that energy from your psyche.
Ooh. And it does so much, not just for your brain and your thought life, but for your whole entire body, because your brain starts to release chemicals like it's designed to serve you in the long run. Yeah, so good. So that kind of leads us to the next law.
That would be the law of cause and effect.
Which is very similar, right? Obviously, yes. Every action creates a reaction, right?
Yeah. We are not receivers of action. Mm-hmm. We are creators of action.
Yes, that's right. That's our James Allen, but also our favorite quote from Simon. I just lost it.
What was the quote?
Our friend, the right between action and between stimulus and response.
Yes, Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, sorry.
Between stimulus and response lies our power to choose our response.
Yeah, but the biggest piece is we are causative beings. We are not victims. We've just said that, right? We're not victims. Mm-hmm. We're not stuck on that triangle, and we have the right to choose to recognize ourselves as causes, and we choose to cause positivity or negativity in our lives.
I'd even go so far as to say we have a responsibility to choose.
Oh, yeah, of course we do.
Not just a right.
We were created to cause. We weren't created to be effects. We weren't created to just let the world happen to us, right? We were created for the world to happen for us. God is conspiring on our behalf.
I suddenly want a T-shirt that says, I am the cause and the effect.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, and it's important to recognize that if you're sitting around feeling like the world is happening to you and you have no control over these things, you have the opportunity to say, I am in control. I am a creator of my life and my world.
Yeah, a good
that
friend
statement
of mine,
alone is powerful.
A good friend of mine likes to say that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. I couldn't agree more with that.
Well, then just the idea that to think to yourself and start each day this way. What if the universe is on your side, right? What if the universe is conspiring for your higher good? Because it is. And once you realize it and accept it, whoo, that's exciting.
What was it that Einstein said about that? He said every individual has a choice to make. They have to decide if we live in a hostile universe or a friendly universe or something like that. Right. But it comes down to that. Yeah. I mean, the idea that we live in a hostile universe makes me question why life would even exist.
Now, we're going to come up to a law that reminds us why there has to be the negative, why there has to be evil in the world. But the truth is, the universe is conspiring for your higher good. Absolutely. Indeed. We have more people getting positive results than we have negative and evil things happening. Even though it doesn't feel that way all the time, right?
Indeed.
All right. We got to move on to law number 7. We're still okay, but
law number 7, the law of the perpetual transmutation of energy. That one's a mouthful.
Yeah. Well, and it's a scientific mouthful too, right? Science proves this, that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It becomes, it transforms, right? So you think about
Newton's first law of motion, right?
Exactly. You think about Newton sitting under the tree, and that apple up in the tree was just potential energy, right? Until gravity overwhelmed the stem of the apple, and boom, it became an apple in motion. And so energy moves from potential to motion, right? To momentum. So a lot of things have potential energy, right? We all have potential energy. But until we put that energy into action, we transmute it from idea to action, right? I remember my teachers always saying, oh, Robert does okay. He's all right, but he has so much more potential. And it used to bother me, right? Like potential is meaningless unless you use it. You can have all the potential energy in the world. It's like the frogs, right? There's a story of 5 frogs were sitting on a log and 4 of them decided to jump. How many are left on the log? 5, because just because they decided to jump doesn't mean they jumped.
Ah, that's great.
Their potential's still sitting on the log.
Yep. I think the trick with potential is that potential is just that. It doesn't describe action. It doesn't describe energy. It just describes the potential to action, right? The key, especially with kids, and you know, the sarcastic me wants to say you should have told your teacher, yes, I have potential. I'm just waiting for the inspiration to act on it. Right? Because isn't that what turns potential into action? Is inspiration?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's right. That goes back to that burning desire.
Right.
The burning desire.
That's why we build visions. That's why we create a compelling vision for ourselves. That's why we review our vision. That's why we manifest the future that we desire, so that we're always working towards that thing that gets us to implement that potential and turn it into energy.
Absolutely. And I love, there's so many things that energy transmutes from, one thing to another, right? Like the electricity that comes into your home, it's transmuted into these light bulbs and the energy that they output. In your car, the liquid energy that's stored in gasoline is transmuted into motion through the explosion that it creates inside the combustion engine. So many ways that we transmute, and energy is just, it's moved from one source. It's never created or destroyed, but it's moved from one source to another. Recently, because of crypto and some of these other things, I've started thinking about money. Or my dad put solar panels on, and really all that happened was, he paid a company for these solar panels. They're collecting the money that he used to pay the Excel company. And so it's really just money moving from one player to another in the circulation.
Until they're paid off.
The money wasn't created or destroyed. It was just moved around. and you think about that in a lot of business activity, and the business activity really is about the motion of money from one place to another. And the crazy thing about that motion in the energy flow process, it has a chance to multiply. It has a chance to pick up more. It attracts more when it's in motion. And that's kind of a cool process to start visualizing money in a different way than, oh, that thing is so expensive, or, oh, that thing is so this, oh, they're so rich, they don't need that much. But it's really all about the flow, and the people that attract money to them are the people that understand the flow, and they know how to make money move faster and faster. And the faster it moves, the more it attracts to itself.
Well said. I don't have anything to add to that.
Thanks.
No, that's good.
So the next law is a little mystifying, I guess. Most of the things you'll read about the law of gender, of course, everything has a masculine and a feminine energy idea. Mm-hmm. But I think from the idea of creation, it's really when the masculine and feminine come together, the law of gender is really the gestation period. It's the time it takes for that energy, that masculine and feminine energy, to come together and create the new thing. And so I was always taught the acorn had the potential energy inside of it. And the law of gender is the amount of time it takes for that acorn to attract all of the things to itself to become the oak tree. Right. And of course we've shared the story of the bamboo before, that, the first couple of years, there's a certain type of Chinese bamboo that only grows a couple, just tiny little bits. And the first year it spends under the ground, and your temptation is to dig it up to see the evidence, right? Oh, I want to see the evidence. But you have to wait, for that second year for it to even sprout just a couple inches. And then the third year sprout a couple more inches. And it's either the fourth or fifth year that it jumps from a couple inches to 11 feet. And the idea is recognizing that your dream has a gestation period, right? That your dream, the pieces that you're attracting to make your dream reality, the ideas that you're bringing together and the ideas that you're activating in your business have a gestation period, and you can't give up on them too soon. Napoleon Hill shared the 3 feet from gold story, right?
The important thing to take from that bamboo story, and actually I don't think it's 11 feet. I think it's more like 75.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's enormous. And the thing to take away from that is that those first 3, 4, 5 years are spent building the root ball beneath the soil that can support a bamboo that stands 75 feet tall.
Right.
Right. So understand that when you're putting energy into building your dream and it doesn't seem like there's anything happening, you're building the roots. You're building the support system that will turn into that dream down the road.
And it's so important, right?
That's why there's no such thing as get rich quick, because you can't get rich. You can get a lot of money quick, but you're going to lose it because you haven't laid the foundation to be.
You don't have the character for handling that.
That's it.
Absolutely. I think, obviously, just search up the history of lottery winners.
Or sports, right? People in sports who earn a lot and then they retire and they're broke in 5 years.
Well, and I think, even the ones that, get so carried away in their rookie year and it sets them up for the wrong kind of lifestyle and they blow it, even faster. I think the cool thing is that some of those organizations now are starting to recognize the responsibility as an organization to educate and to improve character. And you and I, as coaches, have both recognized the fact that I'm not here to help somebody accomplish their dream. I'm here to help somebody become the person capable of accomplishing their dream. And that's
a great little twist.
Absolutely. That's that root system, right? We're building the foundation of their character. We're building the foundation of their business, the foundation of their network, to bring about all of these things that will fulfill their dream. And it all takes time. And there's no gestation period for a dream, right? When Microsoft was started in a garage, when Amazon was started on a sheet of 4x8 sheet of plywood, right? They had an idea, they had a dream, but there's no way they could have understood the gestation period and what that tree would look like when they were done, right? The idea that now they're launching rockets and going to space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's keep going. I don't want to run out of time here.
That's right.
The next one is the Law of Relativity. Right. This isn't E equals MC squared. That's
a good one too, though.
It's a good one. Remember, it's the law. This is talking about everything is relative, right? When you have, if you think in your mind that $10,000 is a lot of money, the person who makes $100,000 a month doesn't necessarily share that information with you. Doesn't share that belief, right? There's a cognitive dissonance between those two ideals, right?
Like big or small, right? Like I could say that my house is big. Well, my house is big compared to a mobile home, right? But my house compared to a $20 million mansion, it's kind of small, right? And so the relativity is in compare. What do we compare it to in our mind? Right. And so $10,000 for some people seems like an impossible amount for a month or for a week. But for others, $10,000 is what they could earn in a day. Right. And so when something feels big or seems impossible, ask yourself what you're comparing it to. Ask yourself, in comparison to what? Right. Yeah, and that's where you stretch your comparisons.
Yeah, another way that this applies, especially in entrepreneurship, is the quote, never compare your beginning to someone else's middle.
Oh, or end.
I think the quote is middle because pretty much everyone is still working on their process unless they're deceased.
This is true, but there's, it's easy to look at other people's results, especially even in sports, right? Especially the Olympics are coming up. All of us are going to look at these Olympic athletes and go, wow, that's incredible. They made it look so easy, right? It looks so easy for Shaun White to go down the the half pipe and do all these tricks and in snowboarding, and yet, you could say, oh, I want to ski like Shaun White or board like Shaun White does. But the truth is, he's nearly 40 now, and he's been doing this for 3/4 of his life.
Right.
And so I can't expect to go out there and jump on a snowboard and do the things that he's doing without going back to the law of gender, right?
Right.
It takes time to develop the skills.
It comes down to the 4 levels of
learning.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
He has reached unconscious competence.
Mm.
And there's nothing that says you can't reach that. It kind of reminds me of the success iceberg.
Right.
Have you seen that one where it says success at the top, floating above the water? Underneath, it talks about long nights, hard work, sacrifice, losing friends, like all the things that it took to get there. But nobody sees that.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So when you compare yourself to someone, you have to compare yourself not to their public perception, what you see on their YouTube channel, but what have they really gone through? What did they really sacrifice to get where they are?
And even the people that you think are close to you that are their businesses have a similar age, or they're doing similar stuff, comparing their results to yours isn't fair to yourself, really.
Right.
The best person to compare yourself to and the best person to try to be better than is yesterday you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
That's the only guy I got to beat, right? Is yesterday me. If I can be a little bit better than yesterday me, and I get 10% improvement every day for a year, even at 1%, right? If I'm 1% better every day of the year, that's a pretty incredible growth curve after 365 days.
Mm.
And that's a fair comparison, right? That's the comparison that I want to hold on to.
Well, it's the only one that really makes sense, right? There's the concept of extreme ownership, right?
Mm.
I am responsible for me. I'm responsible for everything that happens inside this box in the universe. Anything outside of it is not my responsibility. Now, it might be my responsibility to choose an appropriate response to stimulus, but I am responsible for what I do. I'm responsible for the action I create, the value I put into my ecosystem, and the energy that I put into the universe.
Mm. Yeah, so good.
If I compare myself to someone else's energy, action, and results, I can't take responsibility for that. So I'm just setting myself up for failure.
Absolutely.
Or at least for a negative comparison.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, it just becomes discouraging to look at other people and allow yourself to feel less than, right? If you compare yourself to yourself, you set yourself up for great success, and you only need little bits of improvement each day to get great results. That goes back to that consistency and things we've talked about, right? Persistence and consistency are pretty powerful.
Absolutely. So let's go on to the law of polarity.
Oh, this is one of my favorites, because for every negative thought, right? And it goes both ways, but for every negative thought, right? That dream comes into your mind. Oh, you can make $10,000 in a month, or you could make $10,000 in a day, right? The thought comes into your mind, and instantly your security system, your brain wants to say, not you, that's impossible. But for every idea, the opposite has to be true. So if your mind says that's impossible, means it has to absolutely be possible. For you to even think the negative, the positive has to absolutely be possible, because for every negative, there's an exact positive opposite. And of course, it goes the other way. For every positive, there's an exact possible negative, right? And that's what we were mentioning earlier, right? The evil has to exist in the world for good to be valuable, right? And that's a tough one to swallow, right? It's a tough one to swallow, that why is there evil in the world? Why do bad things happen? But the truth is, we have to have the bad, otherwise the good is no good.
Well, it goes back to the law of relativity a little bit. If there is no evil in the world, we have no context. Good just becomes without evil, good would just be a flat neutral.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The
And
other
that's
thing,
why the more good we have, the more evil is possible.
yeah.
And as terrible as that is, we want the more good. So we have to have the choice of this evil option, right?
Yep. I believe that your potential experience in the world follows a sine wave.
Hmm.
If you can imagine, I'm going to try to draw this on the screen. If you can imagine that you have a sine wave that I'm going to go underneath here, right? So you have a sine. This distance, whatever the wave height it is above the zero line, there's an opposite below it.
Hmm.
And if you refuse to allow yourself to risk great negativity, you can never experience the great positives.
Oh,
It becomes like an ocean breaker, right? It destroys the wave before it hits the shoreline by
right.
knocking the bottom out from underneath it, right? I created this idea, this concept when I was talking to people about relationships,
Hmm.
right? People who were afraid to open up about being vulnerable and allowing themselves to express the feelings that they had for people.
Wow.
And the idea is you will never experience the joy unless you're willing to risk the sadness.
Hmm.
They cannot exist without one another.
What I think, I mean, there's a part of that, right? Recognizing that those negative emotions have to exist. And for me, learning that the negative emotions are signals, just like the positive emotions are signals. And there's signals to my body and my brain of a situation, right? And I'm really designed to experiencing those fully. And I think socially we've been taught, well, anger is bad or sadness is bad, and you're supposed to put those away, right? You're supposed to just jam them in someplace and you stuff them inside your body, and then guess what? You're either not eating healthy and you're doing things to your body you're not supposed to do. You're out taking risks you shouldn't be taking, and a lot of that has to do with this negativity that you've shoved to the inside of your body instead of allowing it to be processed. And when you process it, like you said, every bit of that negative bottom line that you can process gives you that much potential for that upper line. And I think that's such a valuable analogy. Thanks for sharing it that way, because I think it can be helpful for people to see, man, if I let some of this go, that feels bad, right? I process it and I experience it fully, and that'll allow me to experience so much more positive.
Yep,
the same
true.
is true for your business, right? If you're feeling like your business is down in that bottom, that means your business has that much potential to be up in the positive.
And if look at it just from like someone starting out, I work with a lot of people who are just beginning in their entrepreneur journey, and they're afraid to do things like make cold calls or have sales conversations, right? And think about I don't know, I can't even come up with one at the drop of a hat, but a new business owner who has the potential to get a $10,000 a month account and is so intimidated by the phone call and the money conversation related to that he never makes the call out of fear. Right? Now it's a flat line because he feared to take the risk. The upper level of that is no longer available.
Right. Oh, yeah. And he only ends up with exactly what his fear said was going to happen.
Yeah. That's the hard part too, because there's something called a negative reinforcement cycle.
Ooh.
Where if you fail to take action because you're afraid that something negative might happen, and because you don't take action, you have no results, and because you have no results, you feel depressed, like emotionally. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm depressed, but like you feel pushed down into a negative energy state. That can just keep going and it can spiral out of control.
Absolutely. Well, and that kind of plays to the next law, right? The law of rhythm. And I think all energy vibrates at a certain speed and rhythm. and recognizing that life is cyclical. And so
Like
our
a
bodies
sandwich.
have our bodies have a rhythm, an ebb and a flow. If you think about the wave analogy, our business has a rhythm. The calendar year has a rhythm, right? Like none of us made cold calls or sales calls between Christmas and New Year's, right? We're not. That's a ebb and flow that business ebbs during that holiday period, at least for most businesses, right?
Right.
Now, of course, the return cycle is pretty high right there. So there's people returning things and shopping for more after Christmas, but but otherwise, recognizing the ebbs and flows in your business, knowing when your market has highs and lows, right? We sell winter coats before winter and kind of during winter. We don't sell swimsuits in November and December, right? And so that's an ebb and a flow. And recognizing that your coaching business or your writing business or whatever business that you're in, real estate business, has ebbs and flows. The market in different cities has different timing, right? I think that for me, the body one is so important, right? Recognizing your body's rhythm, recognizing your body's sleep rhythm and how much sleep your body needs to function well, and being able to start honoring those rhythms, recognizing your food rhythm with your body. When you eat properly, when you eat the right thing at the right times of day, how does that impact your sleep? How does that impact your energy? I think it's so important to start recognizing these rhythms and using them for your advantage, setting yourself up to use the rhythm. Like for me, I'm a morning person. My creativity is most active in the morning. And so I set aside writing and creative time, content creation time in the morning. Yeah. I do meetings in the afternoon because meetings don't require that same level of creativity and commitment. And I can still do the meetings and be just as enthusiastic and active without having to tap into new creativity, right? And so honoring your rhythm is so important.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's important to remember with the law of rhythm is, you kind of touched on it, but I want to make sure that people understand this. When you're in business and you're, like you said, business follows a rhythm. It's really easy to get, if your focus is in the here and now and you're not looking at the bigger picture, it's really easy to get trapped in the fear of failure when you're in a business downturn. If you don't know that there's if you're in the swimsuit industry and it's February, you know that things are going to turn around soon in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yep.
I'm top of the planet centric. But if you're doing something like SEO, right, and you're working with websites and web clients, and you go through like a month with no new clientele, when is it going to turn around? Right? Those cycles aren't necessarily predictable. It's just really important to remember that they are cycles and to keep going.
Absolutely. And I think if you don't know the cycle for your particular business, especially when it's related to SEO, that information's available. You can find out, were these keywords, how much did these keywords cost 6 months ago, 5 months ago, a year ago, right? And see where that, where the market is moving with regards to some of those things. And I think give yourself permission to recognize the rhythm. Don't make big buying decisions when you're ebbing, right? You want to wait until you're in flow and you're in a good place and your business is vibing to make those big decisions. It's challenging to make decisions at the wrong part of the cycle.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think it's important to know your rhythm and know your business's rhythm, know your partner's rhythms, right? I think that's important in a relationship. Obviously, with female partners, their body has a rhythm. It's built in. They're.
Oh, so do ours.
They do, but the women's is more obvious. It's just like the transition to manhood isn't as obvious for men as it is for women. Women become women, and their body tells them hey, guess what? You're a woman now. and there's a difference in those rhythms. We have to honor those rhythms and honor the traditions that go with those rhythms, I think, in recognizing adulthood and honoring that.
I concede the point 100%. I was not arguing the point. I was just giving another viewpoint.
Oh, you were right. You didn't argue. You were agreeing in a way.
Yes. So let's talk about the last one on our list today, the law of inspired action. Right? How many times have you been, say, driving down the road, you're on your way to work, your mind is kind of just drifting and playing with ideas because you've driven this way 350 times and you don't have to put any cycles in the drive, and you come up with a great idea. Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. And then you don't do anything with it. And a couple of years later, you see somebody else has launched a business and is making millions with it. How many times has that happened to you?
A couple.
At least
see that widget on TV and you're like, I had that idea.
Yeah, they stole my idea. No, they didn't. You didn't act on it. And the law of inspired action said, okay, you don't want it? I'll give it to somebody else.
And that brings in so many of the other laws, right? Like that interconnectedness, the divine oneness. I think, recognizing that, God might be giving you the great idea first, but if it bounces off of you, guess where it's going to land?
You might not even be the first one. You might be the 15th, but nobody else has done anything with it yet. Do you want to run with it? I think
at least write it down, honor
it.
And because it might not be an idea for you. It might be an idea for somebody else in your circle. It might be an idea for a partner or somebody else that you're working with, a client, right? But if you don't even write it down, your brain is first of all going to say, well, he doesn't like ideas, so we're just going to ignore those, right? Your reticular activating system is actually going to filter them out.
Yeah. Here's the thing. When you have those eureka moments, it is a boost of positive energy. You're raising your vibration level in the universe, right? Whether that comes from God, divine inspiration, whatever, however you want to look at it, something is giving you that says, oh, angels saying and whatnot. What are you going to do with that? If somebody walked up to you and said, man, you really impress me, are you going to do nothing? Or are you going to show gratitude? Right?
So good.
When you have an inspired idea come into mind, if nothing more, pay it the 30 seconds, like Robert said, like write it down. I'd even go one step farther, write it down and commit to sharing it to your inner circle.
Well, and even you added a third step in there, just being grateful for it. Write it down, be grateful for it, and share it. Woo! Those are 3 huge steps towards.
Because if you take something that you said, I had this great idea, I'm so grateful, what do you guys think? And you show it to your closest friends and family, and all of them are like, dude, if you don't do something, I'm going to make $1 million with this. You think you might be inspired to take the next step?
I love it. Yeah. So powerful. Well, those are our 12 laws that we're going to go through over the next few episodes, and we hope that you'll join us. Our next episode is so exciting.
Yes, we will be talking with Coach Kevin Carton, who is just an amazing life coach, and we'll be talking to him all about the law of attraction. You don't want to miss it. I'll just leave it there.
You do not want to miss it. Trust me, it is it's a master class in attraction. Absolutely. It's worth $297 all by itself.
I'll build a landing page right now. All right.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed just getting to know the basics about each of these laws, but I hope you'll stick around and learn really how to apply them into your life and business and really make the changes for yourself and your business that will bring about the dreams that you want.
Absolutely. And as you go out into the world, start thinking about how these laws apply to you. And I also want to say real quick, if you are if you're building your business and growing your business and you're wanting to take it to the next level, absolutely feel free to reach out to Robert as a business coach. He works with small business owners, coaches, you name it, people trying to take their business that they've already created some success in and take it to that next level. And if you're caught in a rat race working a day job and you think that you might want to, embrace entrepreneurship, start learning about how to change your mindset, take on a growth attitude, and create something where you're no longer tied to that W-2 income all the time, feel free to reach out to me. I love working with entrepreneurs and showing them the path out of the rat race. And with that, guys, we hope you have enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week when we're talking about the law of attraction.